Hello everybody, I'm Alucard, and welcome to the Gamers Addict Top 5 Retro Games list. How are you guys doing today? Alrighty then, so we're going to go ahead and get started in just a second. I was going to have Butters in here, but I keep bringing her up and she keeps getting irritated, but Butters says hi to all of you guys. One thing I wanted to go ahead and say really quick is that with this top 5 list, I'm not going to talk forever. If you guys know me, you know I go on and on and on, but I don't want to take up the entire segment, so I'm going to make sure to be just a little bit more quick with this. One thing I wanted to point out to you guys that I thought was actually quite hilarious is I have this nice little Mario and Yoshi figurine here, as you guys can see.
It's not
Figurines, stuffed animals, and they were hanging on the wall. They got very, very dirty, and I decided I was going to go ahead and wash them. So I did, and when they came out, as you can see, they were nice and clean and smooth, but there was one little tiny problem, and I'm going to bring it right up in front of the camera. Dun dun dun! Do you see this? Oh my god, I washed him and he literally has no mustache, and since he has no mouth, it's kind of creepy. He kind of looks like Bob's Burgers or something, but look at this crap. His mustache fell off right here, so I gotta kind of wrap it around, and I'm gonna probably have to super glue this bad boy onto him, so it's like, okay, this is good, this isn't too evil. But anyways, I thought that was kind of hilarious, guys. So going ahead and putting this off to the side, Javier basically told me that I needed to do this entire video, and if I didn't do the video, some people that I care about and love very much would potentially get hurt. So if I seem a little bit nervous while I'm doing this, I apologize, but I don't really have much of a choice. So we're just going to go ahead and get started as quickly as we can. Okay? So let's go. Number 5, I want to go ahead and name Robocop versus Terminator. Now, this game came out on the Master System, Sega Genesis, and Super Nintendo. Now, comparing the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis version, I have to say the Sega Genesis one is 10 times better, and that's not just me being some kind of a fanboy. It literally is a better game. With the Super Nintendo one, the music just isn't as good, which is funny because they have amazing music chip inside of the Super Nintendo, but it just didn't quite bring what the Sega Genesis did. I personally preferred a lot of the music from the Genesis because it was very synthesized, felt very heavy metal to me. It's really awesome, and the soundtrack to this game is absolutely brilliant. Another thing about this game that's amazing is the freaking gore. My god, the gore in this game. Nowadays, everybody's used to everything being as gory as possible, but back in 1993 or 4, this wasn't a common thing unless you played Mortal Kombat. But if you did want blood, you needed to stick to Sega, and on this platform, holy shit, as a child, you go from having, you know, Terminator movies and Robocop movies, so you marry these two together, and it's every single kid's dream to have this game, and it completely delivers. Again, between the synthesized, hardcore, freaking soundtrack, every time you shoot anything, you got blood shooting out of every orifice all over the place. The levels are huge, they're beautiful, and most of all, you get to fight the Terminator. You're Robocop fighting the Terminator, and you just can't get any cooler than that, especially in the 90s. Now, going ahead and moving on, we're going to go to number 4. This game's going to be hard for me to give a quick minute on because I want to talk forever about it, but that one is going to be Phantasy Star on the Master System. Now, Master System, underrated system, completely. Most people don't even know about it because at the time it was out, there was a whole fiasco with Nintendo taking over everything like the Mafia, and you had to find it in certain stores. One thing about the Master System is it is insanely powerful. It is one of the most powerful 8-bit systems out there, and Phantasy Star really shows that. If you look at a lot of RPGs back in the day, most people say Final Fantasy, Final Fantasy, and Final Fantasy. That is all that exists to them. I'm here to tell you right now that Phantasy Star, the original, on the Master System, blows the originals away that were of that era. So Final Fantasy 1, all the RPGs. It even blows away some of the 16-bit RPGs and the later ones that came out. This game is so ahead of its time, it's crazy. It takes place in a sci-fi world. You get to take off in a rocket ships to other planets, and I mean, it actually shows the animation of the ship shooting up, and you go into these different terrains, the amount of monsters you can fight, the stories, the characters, everything about this game screams being 16-bit, yet somehow it's 8-bit. One of the most impressive parts of this game is whenever you go into a dungeon, it switches to first-person view and gives you like a pseudo 3D environment, and this is something you wouldn't even think is possible on the Master System. Now, of course, a lot of the colors are basic. You know, you have blues and reds when you're moving through here, but I can't explain to you how beautiful it is, and all of the enemies and animations, amazing. Every time you go into a fight, depending on where you are, the backgrounds change, and the enemies you fight are animated, and you get to shoot your fireballs and actually see these effects. A lot of games, even like Dragon Warrior or the original Final Fantasy, you just had a little screen come up, you press a button, you don't see much animation at all or movement, and it just kind of shows that you hit them. But this one really brought it to a new level. So guys, if you ever get a chance to play this game and you are a retro RPG fan, pick it up. Do whatever you can do to play this game because it is freaking brilliant. Okay, moving on. The Lunar Series, Lunar Eternal Blue, which is the second one, and Lunar Silver Star, which is the first. I don't know why I said those sideways. Again, a hard game for me to talk about so quickly. There's this weird point in RPGs between the 16-bit era and the 32-bit era. And what I mean is, you knew what to expect from 16-bit games. You had these beautiful graphics, you had beautiful music, and you knew you weren't going to get all these animated cutscenes or CGI or anything like that. And you get to 32-bit and you had all these 3D games with these huge FMVs. Well, my favorite of all of them is this mid-range, and what I mean is like the TurboGrafx CD and the Sega CD. When the Sega CD came out, it basically added a ton of elements to make your Genesis more powerful, such as being able to use rotations, which made it where you could have like 3D worlds depending on how it moved, and it was really cool. On top of that, you were able to have stereo soundtracks, and very importantly, FMVs. You were able to have full motion video, which means they could create it like an anime, and that's what happened with Lunar. Think about the most amazing 16-bit game you've ever played, add full voice acting to all of the characters, add full animation to the back with the cartoons, and it basically made the greatest thing ever. And that's just the beginning. I can't go on forever with this, but the characters, the world, the emotions, the bosses, everything about this game blew me away. It is so emotional and it's hilarious. They use all these crazy jokes in there that adults will get but kids won't, you know, kind of like SpongeBob. Tons of hilarious 90s references going back in the day, Bill Clinton, everything, you name it. It was just this game that enveloped me in every possible way. And even more amazing is after you finish the campaign, playing for over 80 hours or 100 hours, this was one of the first games to have post-game content where you actually get to play after you finish the game. So guys, I can't go more into it, but Lunar, Silver Star, and Eternal Blue are two of my favorite classic RPGs ever made, and they would have not been the same if they didn't come out on the Sega CD and the Saturn, but only in Japan. So I highly suggest you pick these games up because, my God, they're brilliant. Okay, moving on, we're going to go ahead and go to number 2. So that was number 3. Number 2, Guardian Heroes. Guardian Heroes came out on the Sega Saturn. Now, the Sega Saturn was basically a 2D powerhouse that they added a 3D chip to, and it made it where you could do a lot of great 3D effects in Resident Evil and Panzer Dragons, but where its strongest at was in its 2D. It basically took any 2D game you remember playing from the early 90s and put it on steroids. Guardian Heroes, to me, is a mix between a fantastic RPG and an amazing beat-em-up. So think about a game like Streets of Rage or Final Fight, Double Dragon, any of them, where you run them to the side and you're beating them up. Take that, beat it, steroids, make it grow to a monster, and you have Guardian Heroes. Except for in this game, you have tons of different characters you can play who all have different abilities, different magics, different moves, like entire move lists that you can perfect. The really cool thing about the game is that as you're going, you can level up your character, and you cannot level them up in one playthrough. So as you're going, you pick your power, magic, different things you want to level up. And when you get to the end of the game, you can restart it, and you keep all of your stats and keep building up these characters. You could have multiple people playing with you, you know, get 4 different people or more on this game. And I don't know how to explain how amazing this game is, but especially at the time, it has different storylines. So when you're going, you get to a point where it stops, kind of like those old books you would read, where they're like, do you want to go left into the forest or you want to go right into a cave? Well, it does this, and depending on what you do, you go to a different area, different enemy, and most importantly, the story changes in the game, and it has multiple endings. So you can play this game over and over and over again, and you will keep finding new content and building it up with your friends. And it is so powerful and so beautiful, and I highly suggest you guys pick it up. It is expensive. Find an emulator. Do what you gotta do. Guardian Heroes, one of my almost #1 game on the Sega Saturn, but definitely in my top 5 faves. And going on to the final, which I can't believe I don't have more than a minute to talk about, is Shenmue. I'm saying Shenmue as a whole. Shenmue is one of the be-all, end-all games ever made. It is my favorite series of all time, and it is brilliant. So yeah, anyways guys, that's going to go ahead and top off our list. So we have Shenmue, Guardian Heroes, Lunar Silver Star, and Eternal Blue, Phantasy Star, and Master System, and Shenmue. I think I said Robocop versus Terminator. Either way, I don't need to go through all of them. That is going to be my list for today. I hope you guys all enjoyed it. Please make sure that you subscribe to the Gamers Addict channel with my buddy Javier, which is probably literally the coolest person I've ever met in my entire life and has the biggest heart in the world. I appreciate you guys, and as always, my friends, until next time.